Set.
All right. The meeting will come to order. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is this okay?
Yes, I can hear
I feel like it's loud. Okay, gonna do the pledge of allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call of members. We have everybody today on the ZBA except for Steve Kiss. You may have noticed I am not Steve Kiss. I am the vice chair. Steve gave notice that he would not be able to attend, so I will run the meeting today. Next item on the agenda is to accept the agenda, and before we accept it, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yeah, I need to make a motion to change the agenda. We do have minutes to approve. Second.
All right, the motion is to add minutes for approval to the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Approval of minutes. The November 8th, 2023 meeting minutes were distributed to us. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. We are moving on to public comment. So this section of the agenda is for any public comment that is separate from the two public hearing items that are on the agenda. So does anybody have any more general public comment? No? All right. And there's no unfinished business on the agenda. So we will move on to the new business. The first item in new business is the public hearing for the variance at Shoreview Road. And I don't know if everyone is aware, but due to inaccuracies contained in the notice that was posted for this meeting, the ZBA will hold the public hearing, but will not make a decision on the application today. So we will open the public meeting and take public comment, and then close the public hearing and take public comment, close the hearing, and then the ZBA will have a discussion. Would anybody like to speak? Typically, we ask the applicant to give some information about the plan changes and variances requested, and also other members of the public are welcome to speak.
My name is Deanne Faulkner. So I don't really know what to say other than we are.
Use the microphone.
Yeah,
Oh,
if you could just inform the public
Yeah.
when they speak to go to the microphone.
Oh,
That way we get
please
it.
step forward and use the microphone.
Otherwise, nobody outside
Yeah.
that is watching this on the YouTube.
Usually most applicants just describe the project and what you'd like to do with it.
Okay, so basically, the house is dilapidated and our plan is to tear down the garage that's existing out by the road, add on to keeping the structure, the footprint that's there, adding on to a garage towards the road and taking it up a level. I mean, we're not really going outside the footprint too much.
We're actually not going outside of the footprint at all, other than the new garage and the breezeway. The garage that's existing is non-conforming, obviously, because it's 6 feet from the road. It's blocking views, it's blocking traffic. We feel that it's something that we would better the situation there along Shoreview Drive. Where the renovation of the house itself. We're planning on, like my wife just said, we're planning on keeping the same footprint, going up a level. So, you know, the existing non-conformity and I guess pre-existing variance, if there is one, I don't know if there is or not, what you would consider it, but I wouldn't, I don't think that that's something that would really change much other than going up higher and adding a little more storage, so like
Not really,
adding more household plates.
we're not doing the drill.
Right, your footprint stays. the same, so. Yeah, I mean, we kind of, and you talked to Scott, right, or today. Basically, we weren't really as prepared as we should be right now, I guess, because we thought this was gonna be tabled and brought up next time, so. That's
What we typically do is this allows some discussion, you get to hear the board's feelings. Sometimes, if there's concerns from the board, it gives you an opportunity to tweak the application and get it passed versus getting it denied, so that the discussion can help you get this over the finish line.
Okay.
And you probably get a sense if everybody's satisfied with it, or if there are concerns, then you have an opportunity to try to address the concerns so the application gets approved.
And that will be later on, and
That would be it. Well, we'll have a discussion here,
Okay.
comments, questions. We may have questions about the application,
okay,
but then we won't vote on it.
okay,
And then we will vote on it at the next.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. We want to sit here, so.
Yeah,
No, I think we wait for,
Oh,
we have an application, so do we wait until that's brought up?
oh, you have the Kavanaugh Lake.
Kavanaugh Lake,
Yes, that's, we're not on that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Would anybody else like to speak about the Shoreview application?
I just want to make sure I'm clear on something,
Would you like to step up to
Sure.
the microphone?
because I don't know how to read setbacks. So
If you could also state.
I'm not
your
sure if east is west or west is east is my basic thought. But I mean, you're on the current footprint, so. Then I'm assuming the setbacks that are there are gonna stay the same. Is that correct?
yes, other than the garage part, which we would pull towards the road.
Just.
But I mean, the side
Just-
setbacks,
just to-
you're not like
Just
shifting
to
the
cut this
house.
short, the public is supposed to address the zoning board of appeals. If
Oh.
you have those questions, we can answer those.
Okay.
But just go ahead and ask the questions
Yeah.
to the board, and then we will address those questions.
Fine, yeah.
You can also say your name, that would be helpful.
My name is Tim Bell.
Okay.
I'm one of the neighbors next door. And, yeah, like I said, I just didn't know which side was which and if they were shifting the house or not, so I just wanted to get clarification.
Angela, if you wanted me to clarify for him, I think the confusion is that notice that went in the paper and that you have in your hand is incorrect.
Yeah.
And the setbacks were flipped to either side.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that Angela brought up at the beginning, that we'll have to renotice this and actually make a determination at the next ZBA hearing, is because that is incorrect. But also, if you ever have any questions about a notice that you get, the plans for the project are on the website. You could also call our office at any time or email me, and I can answer those questions too for you.
All right.
It would show you exactly.
I tried to send, I mean, I was out of town, out
Yeah.
of state, and so I just quickly tried to send something to whatever the info at to ask for the plan, but I didn't get it,
All right,
so.
I don't know where
So
So-
Jim, just to clarify about like east and west setbacks, so it's a cardinal direction, so we're looking north, the east setback is on the east side, the property, the west is on the west side.
So this is flipped.
So that's, yes.
I thought, well, they're so close to the current, it seems like it's just wrong, you know, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you measure from the west side to the house to get the east setback. I just didn't know.
Here's the dimensions from the application. So the east setback is currently at 5.76 feet at the house, 2.8 at the current garage. It's gonna go to 5.78, so a very slight improvement from the house.
Yeah.
And the garage would be 7.78.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing, the total setback is more than just really there, so. I was like, okay, I'm moving into this.
The west setback stays at 14.72 for the house.
All right,
It's less than 20 for the garage. It's gonna be 19.72 for the garage.
all right.
The front lake side there is a slight encroachment there with the deck, so it's existing at 23.76 to the lake. The house will be 23.76%. They are proposing a deck on the front, and that would take the setback from the deck to the lake to 18.76.
All right. Thanks. I'm in favor.
Would anybody else like to speak on this? You can state your name when you get to the microphone at council. Thank you.
My name is Julie Stanley and we are the neighbors. I did get you guys a letter, so I wanted to let you know that the neighborhood is gung ho. We are very much for the renovation of the home, what they've got to do with setbacks, adding on the garage. Anything that has to be done to improve that property is 150% on board for the neighborhood. Okay, so if there's anything that you need from us, because we're right next door, I guess. We'll be here to answer any questions or give any kind of advice or anything like that. Okay? Thank you.
And I'll note for the record that Julie did provide a letter signed by Newport Sneakers in support of the application.
Get it, Scott, I'll put that into the already.
She just presented that to us at the beginning of the.
All right. Cool.
Anybody else like to speak? All right, well, we will close the public hearing portion. And now we'll have a discussion on the ZBA. Does anybody have any comments about this application or questions?
I have one observation, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with the applicant, but whoever surveys the property. One thing that I found very helpful is when the whoever surveys the property can also stake exactly where the corners of the house would be, or the structure would be, can be very helpful. Yours, it looked like was just marked with the property lines. And usually we're pretty good at reviewing the schematics and then making the appropriate observations and judgments on that. But just from a personal, it is nice whenever we make a personal visit to the property, if we're able to visualize that with, oh, okay, here are the corners of the house right here. Some situations it's done that way, some it's not, but it is, and obviously that's not anything that you really had to do, but just for the record, for others that would be making applications, it is helpful to us when we're able to visualize that in that manner.
I'll just chime in. I agree with you. I have some trouble visualizing in space. So whenever there's an actual marker to mark the corner of a building, or where there's a turn, or where you can walk to the deck, that's super helpful to me, because just looking at a piece of paper is a little bit harder for me to visualize that way.
And it looks like the house will then be oriented the exact same. It looks like it's not actually parallel with the property line, but it's at a little angle. And if the existing structure, or the proposed structure that you're suggesting to get permission would be on that exact same footprint, that you wouldn't be straightening the house in any way to more align with the property lines, but exactly where the footings are of the existing house right now is where the proposed new structure will be built.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question for the ZBA members. This brings up a good point. Your code is not clear when you determine that a house is demolished versus when it's just being remodeled. And I did ask Commissioner Board Member Kiss about this, and to figure out when you guys determine that a house is demolished, and it was very unclear on his answer too. It does sound like this is for the notice on the next time I notice this hearing is if you consider a house that's removed down to the foundation as removed, or would you consider that just repair?
If they're taking the footings out, I would say.
So they're not-
That's just my opinion, because odds are if they're going to this state of building, why would you use the old footings?
That they have stated that they are going to use the foundation that is in place currently. So that it's just gonna be removed, that they're gonna remove the entire structure itself and use the foundation that's there. So as long as the foundation remains, you guys consider it not a demolished structure. It sounds like it's what you've done in the past.
And that's my recollection of how we've approached this application in the past.
Excellent.
Have you checked the foundation and is that secure? That house did look pretty rough.
Yeah, the south side foundation is south side and about a portion of east and west side is stable. We would have to probably put new footings in towards the lake side.
Well, this kind of leads, the only concern I have with the application is further encroaching on the lake side setback with that deck. We typically don't allow that. And when I looked at the house and lot, and this is really a decision that you would have to make, but if it was me and those footings were bad, you probably could do yourself a favor to back it off the lake a little bit, the way that lot was. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks of that, but in a perfect world, if I was gonna tear that house down and rebuild it and wanted that deck there, I would back the house back into the yard away from the lake, give you some ground out there too, in addition to the deck. You probably, I live on the lake and believe me, that lakeside is best part of your yard, the lakeside isn't much. And the way that lot is laid out, you could back it off. Now, you know, if you're gonna utilize part of that house, there's a cost for doing that. It might not fit within your plans, but that's one thought I had, that you may actually be more satisfied with the end product to have, you know, a bigger lakeside yard. I don't know if the rest of the board feels that way, but that was my only question on the application, concern and thoughts on that.
I too had a concern about increasing the encroachment on the lakeside part of our property. With the deck, when I went back and stood at the corner of the house where it's marked and the house is there, and that part was clearly marked. I did notice that your house is actually closer to the lake than your neighbor's house. And one consideration I drive away, whenever improvements are being made, is how does this affect your neighbors? And one of the things they feel strongly about is their point of view or their reference looking out of their property. So one question I would have, and trying to validate that, is why would we permit that to be extended further and even encroach more on their ability, even though it's a deck and you can see over the deck, it's still in their line of sight outside. So I would have questions regarding that.
So if we had to back it up, what would be the measurement we have to back it up? Like, what would be that distance, I guess, to take it farther towards the road, you know?
Well, to keep the size of the deck that you'd want it on there, it would be the size of the deck.
So I think to clarify, what it sounds like you're saying is you don't want any structure to encroach closer to the lake than the existing structure.
Right.
So if you wanted a 15-foot deck in the front of your house, you would move your structure back 15 feet and then put the deck out there. Currently you have a 5-foot deck, so if you wanted that 5 foot, you would have to move the structure back 5 foot from the deck there. Yeah.
We are in favor, if that's what they wanted to do, is bring the house back. That would be beneficial for Bob and I as well, to have the house set back, because when we first built our house was on a hill just like it is, and ours was set right even with that house. So when we built ours, we brought ours back. We brought ours back 15 feet. So we were able to get our lake front and have the land, because that's where you wanna be. You're on the water, you wanna be on your lake front, you want your land there. So that is.
The current structure is really close to the hill. It goes down to the.
Our hill, we dug out, I don't know, Mr. Payne dug out. Ooh, dirt, we had to cut those dirt, you dug all that back out. Because that's the whole hill that they're on, from all the way across the whole property of ours. When we built, we come back.
Part of the issue coming back too far is where the well is located. That's. That potentially causes a problem, so that's why we were, didn't really want to move it back too far, move it back, but I mean, I guess if we could gain a few feet and that was okay, then that would be something we would consider.
I'm not in favor at all of making the situation worse than what it is already. So. I'm not in favor of saying okay to the deck at all. 'Cause I'm not. We've been trying to be consistent on not making things any worse. Well, I'm just one person too, but I don't. Yeah, I'll be honest, that's kind of where I'm at. That's been a consistent thing with this board, so as it stands now. I would probably vote to approve it if there wasn't that deck on there, because you're keeping it in the same footprint. But if you insisted on having the deck and encroaching it,
I know I'm a new zoning person. I don't know if you want me to present the project for you, but I also want to make sure that you're approving the projects based on the 7 standards, not on. You don't set precedent by what you have done in the past. So he's stating that he doesn't see that moving a structure closer to the lake would meet the standard requirements of the code, the discretionary standards, because it doesn't fit into the neighborhood. It has impacts on the neighbors, those types of things. There is a sense that they're trying to maintain the existing footprint, but they will be addressing the standards for those two.
a good point. Trying to give you some guidance, so, like I say, I think if you kept the existing setbacks on the lake. More likely to pass a vote of the standards. So you have some thoughts to decide if. Do you leave it as is? Do you remove the deck from the application, or you could move the house back a little bit and keep the deck by not further encroaching? So those are options you could consider between now and the next meeting. Okay. Thank you. And I think, Scott, they could revise the application for the next meeting.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I mentioned in the staff report is this is a good opportunity to open the public hearing because people have shown up for this thing. Then also for the ZBA to talk about how the applicant may be able to amend the project to have a approvable project if it does look like the planning commission did or the ZBA did have concerns over this. And it sounds like there are some concerns for the encroachment into the front of the structure. And I guess just on a broader sense, the next project that we have, if you just want to close the public hearing, then have me present the project or present my staff report, it might be helpful also. So this one we've already gone through. It sounds like you have given them some good feedback, and then she just had concern with that one item. And we need to get a proper notice, which I've talked to the attorney, and we'll make the notices really broad from now on so that they don't have to be so specific.
Maybe check, are there any other questions or concerns from the board on that one?
I will reiterate that it would be helpful for however you end up configuring the project, just having the stakes indicating the corners and edges, that kind of thing will be helpful. This is a minor question, but I noticed there's an existing deck on the west side of the house. It's very small. Can you visualize that? Is that going to stay? No. Okay, it's just not included in any of the information, so, okay. Any other discussion points by the CBA? Okay. So I will make a motion to, Scott, is it postpone or table?
You can, it doesn't really matter because it's gonna be a 100% new hearing because I need to renotice it.
Okay.
So you could do either postpone or table. When the next one comes back, it will be like it's brand new. So we'll have to have an actual public hearing again
Okay,
and everything, just because the accurate notice will have to go out.
okay. So I will make a motion to postpone, further discussion of this project until an accurate notice is issued. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, okay, go ahead, Marcus. All right. The second public hearing is on the variance for 120 Kavanaugh Lake Road. And we will open this up for public hearing. Scott, did you give your report during the public hearing?
You could, it could, no, it would be either before or after, whichever you would rather prefer.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and give your report and then I'll open it up.
All right, so the item that's, yeah, it's sometimes easier for before, so the owners don't have to review it. Although then I have to do it. So, what's in front of you tonight at 110 Kavanaugh Lake Road is a variance to the 20-foot setback required for the east from the east property line for a new generator to be installed. It was determined that a generator meets the definition of a structure according to your zoning regulations. So that's why this is in front of you tonight. The applicant did have an existing generator located on the east side of the home, but it did need to be moved. And that needed to be moved because of building code requirements and distances to windows. So according to the building code, for new whole house generators need to be 5 feet from a window of a structure. So they had to shift it from the existing location, which was closer to where their electrical box is on the outside of their house, to the location that it's proposed in now. And that new generator will be 10 feet from the east property line where 20 feet is required. So in my project description on the first page, it just goes through a little bit, and then I have some questions that may arise. This just has to do with the definition of structure and why we're here tonight for a generator and a setback. And then I do talk about what some other municipalities do on this for future reference for you guys, because we probably either want to change the code so that we're not coming forward for any generator or AC unit that is going to go into the side setbacks from now until the future, because it would create a lot of ZBA cases. So I did have some recommendations on that, and I think we could hold off on that conversation until the comment section of this agenda. So we could talk about it at the end of zoning board of appeals comments.
Doesn't the code have to be changed by the township board? I don't think we have the authority.
No, so yes, it does, but the ZBA has authority to request the change from the planning commission. So I have talked to the township attorney and the supervisor, and they both think that a requested change from the ZBA would be the way to move these things forward. Whenever you're seeing a lot of variances for a certain thing and you're just approving them all, the ZBA wants to request a change to the zoning, because there's no reason to have a code if you're just going to approve it regardless. So you would wanna request that the code be changed to whatever you're approving. Like, I did hear that, we usually do this, if you usually do that, we should change the code to what you usually do. So it's, you can't create zoning regulations as the ZBA. What you can do is you can make the findings on a case-by-case basis that a variance meets the variance standards. That there's an undue hardship or particular difficulty due to the size, shape, or location of the property that this variance is required. So, that's a little bit about that, and we'll talk about it later, because I don't think the applicants really need to hear it. They just want to put their generator in. And by the way, their generator is already in, but whenever a item is put in without proper approvals, the ZBA should just address the variance application as if that generator is not actually there. So you're acting like the generator is not there, and you're going to make the variance findings based on if it was not there. So again, in my third page of my staff report starts the standards for review, and these are the 7 standards that are in your zoning ordinance to be able to approve a variance. And you can see I went through them and gave you my professional opinion on them, and then you would address each of those standards and see if you believe it meets or does not meet those standards. If it doesn't meet, if you believe it doesn't meet any of those standards, the project can't be approved. So it has to meet all 7 of those standards. And then in my staff report, I do under recommendation just direct that you should, you know, open the public hearing, take testimony, close the public hearing, and evaluate the proposal with conformance with the regulations. And then I do give you 2 example motions that you can use to approve or deny the project. And if you want anything, if you think of anything else that you would rather have in a staff report, just let me know and we can discuss it. You can always email me. I'll have my emails now. Just send me an email and with recommendations on how to make the staff report.
That was really good. All right, well, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this application. We have this meeting.
You can get up and explain why you want to put the generator in the location. That it's good.
But why you chose the location and why?
Yeah, Fred Schmidt, 120 Gavin Lake Road. When we originally built the cottage that exists now, we got a variance for building the cottage as it was, because of course it were 20-foot setback backs on Gavin Lake Road. And the original generator was installed at that time. And in essence, when we built the cottage, we improved the setback because we tore out an existing cottage that was actually, their building was within 5 feet of our building. So there was essentially no setback at all on one side. And last winter, this generator that had been installed stopped working. And according to the repair person that came to look at it, parts were not available to repair it. So in looking at the situation, as Scott pointed out, the first generator was underneath the window, which is not permissible. So in working with Superior, who installed the generator, he was getting the permit as far as I knew. And we moved the generator approximately 10 feet farther away. So it was 5 feet away from any window. And it is sitting there now. And of course, it can't be started up because we were told that we needed the variance to start it up. And I think that's where we are presently, just waiting for approval to finish the project. I don't know what more I can explain to you, but if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them to my best of my ability. So,
You explained the one question I had, and that was, so it sounds like you got placed there based on you trusting your contractor to put it appropriately.
that is correct, sir.
I was wondering, why did you do it for the?
Well, yeah.
That explains it. So,
I was.
I was in that situation on my own home.
Were you, okay, yeah, well, I was under the impression that he had the permits, you know, and honestly, I think he thought he pulled the permit, or thought his permit had been approved, and it didn't seem to meet the regulations, so that's why we're sitting in this position as we are right now.
One other thing that I forgot to mention, I did put in those standards, under the standards. The reasoning for the placement also is, the lot is very narrow. So there is a very little location where it would meet the required setback. And that's at what you consider the rear of the structure, near the entry deck. And when we talked about, when me and the applicant had talked about why they didn't go in that location. The well is located in that location, and then also the utilities to the house are ran through that location. So if you was to put this in there, it would make it very hard to get the utilities, the electric line to that home, because you'd have to go under the current utilities that are ran there and then over and then back up. So the location in the rear of the home would be difficult. In the front of the home, the lake side of the home, you guys all saw when you visited the site today. They have an existing patio and an existing deck in that location, so that would not be ideal. And I did summarize that in my staff report.
Yeah, actually, if we put it at the rear of the building, it would be right in front of the front porch. And as you came up the steps, and there it is. And it would be very hard to put it there, you know, logistically, but also, you know, how do I hide it?
Excuse me,
So that people going by don't have to look at it.
Fred. The fact that in the beginning, we tried to see if we could tunnel under the road and have it down by the garage on the level of having a lake road. And because so many of the utilities go through the private drive, that was not a go at all.
Yeah, I was told that in order to come back up by the house, they would have to dig down 17 feet. You know, to bring it back, and I wasn't willing to help him dig, so. Anything else? Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on this application? All right, the public hearing is closed, so the ZBA will have a discussion.
Well, I have a couple questions. One, I fully appreciate the extent that you shared with us that you tried to accommodate putting the generator in a more ideal location. When I went there today, obviously, I was able to see that there and within 10 feet of the border, and also right there is one of your neighbor's entrances into their house. So that's probably not the most ideal location. I get that. So I do fully appreciate the extent and the effort you put forth in trying to minimize what effects the generator would have on others by thinking of other places to put the generator. Conversely, I also, when we look at this, and as Scott had mentioned earlier, you know, we have to look at this as a new generator being installed into a new area. And then, so is that actually increasing or decreasing the encroachment then or whichever way, I mean, the encroachment would actually increase then.
Okay.
Much as we did with the applicants before you. One of the questions we had was, are we permitting that encroachment to increase? And so I guess I would pose that same question to you. If we were to assume that there's no generator there right now, by us approving it, are we actually making the encroachment more?
What do you say about that? How many air conditioners gets put in that is encroaching the size? This is more like a utility, I guess I'm not.
There's a lot there to consider. I actually looked and made quite a few notes regarding this earlier today, because I was thinking about it. And one of the obstacles that you're dealing with is that you're not allowed to have it too close to your house.
Right, it has to be.
Where an air conditioner, that necessarily isn't the way. But as well, some of the air conditioner units, when you're looking at them right now, to increase the efficiency on them, because the SEER levels of them are so high anymore. The volume of those outside units are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So how much of that do we need to consider of that when it's moving into a space that's limited? When it wouldn't affect a setback, then it's not a big discussion point as far as I'm concerned. But when those units become bigger, and in the case of the generator, when it's going to be moved further from the house than exactly adjacent to the house, does that change those calculations?
I think Sophie want to comment about whether there's further encroachment on the east side.
Well, there is encroachment on the east side, but again, further encroachment on the east side isn't a standard of the. You're looking at, is there something due to the size, shape, or location of the property that this is a necessary encroachment? Now, you could say something like generators aren't necessary, right? Whole house generators aren't necessary, but we know we've had a lot of power outages in this area, so are they or are they not? Is the lot is 49.5 feet wide, where 150 feet is the required required width of a lot in the LR zoning district. That's why the setbacks are set at 20 feet. If the setbacks were at 20 feet on this property, there would only be 9.5 feet to be able to put any structures. So when you're looking at it, is there's something due to the size, shape, or location of the lot that is requiring this reduced setback to be allowed? And I think you could make the findings that that is the case because of the size of the lot, the narrow width of the lot. And also you did in 2004 issue the variance for the structure that was there also to encroach into those setbacks. Could they put this right in the middle of their rear patio? Yeah, they could. I mean, I do have a whole house generator right in the middle of my backyard in my Florida house. So it's just, that's where it goes. I mean, that's where I have it. That's where, I mean, you're going to be in hurricane land. You're going to want your whole house generator close to your house. So, but the reason that they are putting it here is because there is the lot is constrained. The existing structure, obviously the existing utilities, the existing well, the existing electrical panel on the outside of the house. Though there are reasons that you could find that this does meet the required standards. I do get the feeling that you don't want to increase the encroachment, but you could also make the findings that because of the size, shape, or location of the lot that it could need a variance, because we have had these power outages here more frequently recently in our electrical grid as well. Influence right now, I guess. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of them this last year, so.
And I know at the last meeting, we had some discussion there, right? conclusion of should generators be considered part of the structure? Apparently you find for the code or the ordinance it is. But I think there was a general feeling on the board at the last meeting that should we really put residents through this whole process that place a generator, they have to, pay a big fee and whatnot. So, I mean, we never reached a conclusion on that, but there was a lot of sympathy to not force residents to go through a variance process for the generator.
Scott had brought that point up earlier, though.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll talk about it later in this meeting tonight, because I definitely don't think we should.
And I'll add for many of the statement reasons you cited a moment ago, I'm not concerned with this one. I look at it, does that encroachment have a negative impact to the neighbors? Well, there was already a generator sitting there. The potential impact on a generator, okay, it starts up once a week to run itself for 5 minutes or what is of extensive power outage, but the sound and noise probably isn't gonna have any more negative impact on the neighbor than the original one does. Yeah, we're moving it a few feet over, but versus other scenarios where you'd be blocking neighbors' views with an encroachment or, things like that, I'm not seeing this type of encroachment having a real negative impact on the neighborhood, so I'm not overly concerned with it.
Comment, Tom?
I'm just saying, if we say it is in the right of way, how many places are you gonna narrow up even more with an air conditioner and stuff? That's my only thing. You're building a house 20 feet away or something like that. You're gonna narrow that one section up where that generator is gonna be 10 feet. Is the only thing, and
But in this case, there's still 10 feet from the property line.
well, I understand, but if you had 20 feet before, you needed 10 feet to put this generator in. So all this new construction, you're gonna have them cut. To keep the original. Right away that you had before, the easement on that side is what I'm trying to say. Is you're gonna have a cutout or something, so that generator or air conditioner. Is 10 feet away, or 20 feet away, excuse me.
I visited the property yesterday. I visited with the mindset of where else could this go practically. And after reading Scott's staff report about the well location, the utilities location, seeing the deck and the patio, looking on the west side of the house. To me, it was reasonable based on the configuration of the lot itself, the existing house location, and these other factors that the location selected for the generator seemed reasonable.
Front of the house from back of the house, if we stay with 20 feet. Possible way of doing it. Make sure the one in front of us.
In locations like
Yes,
we do within the lake areas, the small non-conforming lots.
exactly. And I guess if we're gonna go that route, we're gonna have to do more township where those air conditioners are and where they are. That discussion later too, right?
Yeah, I get your concern. I guess I'd have more concern if this is for new construction and they were like rebuilding that house and putting it there where they could potentially put a cutout and address it, but since there's no new construction on this one. I guess I'm okay with the current location that I generated. This particular. If it was a construction in conjunction with putting the generator in, then okay, there's ways where you put that wall to minimize encroachment, but they're kind of stuck with the house where it's at. And I would agree, I don't think roadside or lakeside is a good place for that. Given
In this
that
circumstance,
particular lot,
in this circumstance.
in this circumstance, and in this spot.
Any other comments to express, special needs? So Scott, we typically read through each standard, each of the 7 standards, and vote as to whether we confirm that the request variance conforms with each of the 7 standards. It's a bit of a process, but that's how we've always done it. I don't know if you recommend a different method.
You don't, I mean, you don't have to read through each standard and vote on each standard. If you want to, you can. Do you actually make the finding for those standards when you read through them? So you read it and then state why it meets that standard? No, then I did put some motions in. If you just want to make one of the motions and approve and have a vote on the motion, you can do it that way if you would like.
Okay,
That incorporates my findings under those standards, and then everything you talked about at the hearing tonight as part of the findings for those standards, plus you read the motion to say that it meets the standards based on it. So
that's good to hear. I prefer that. I will make a motion to approve the variance application 23-009 at 120 Kavanaugh Lake Road to allow a new generator to be installed on the east side of the existing structure. The new generator will be 10 feet from the east property line, where 20 feet is required by the code, section 30, subsection 348, 5E. Because the variance request meets the variance standard under section 30, subsection 148, D 1-7, as discussed at tonight's meeting and as presented in the staff report. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I think you jumped in.
His was had longer travel.
Let's go vote. Tom?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Myself is a yes.
Thank you.
All right. Motion's approved.
I have a question. Do I need to go to the microphone? It was my understanding that, normally you don't get the information to the county until the next zoning board meeting. Is there a way to let the county know that we've been approved so that the county construction agency can tell our?
yeah, so you're asking about the zoning compliance permit.
Yeah,
So have you already submitted for a zoning permit? Usually you would get the approval, which is tonight, they just approved it. Then you would submit for a zoning compliance permit. You could submit that either via email or the next day that I'm in the office.
okay,
And then I stamp it and then send it directly via email to the Chelsea area.
so it's a few days.
Yeah, it takes a few days.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Clear enough.
There is a appeal period if somebody wanted to appeal the decision of the ZBA, but that would go to courts and you would have to. You are making the determination that you want to put it in and deal with the appeal later date. So you might have to tear it out if you lose your appeal at the courts. But again, it's very rare that somebody loses. Not a.
That's over the applicants.
Thank you.
Communication and petitions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. We're moving on to the discussion among the ZBA.
Yeah, there's a form online that you can use. Submit or. So, but also, if you have a contract with them, you can give me a copy of the signed contract. That's my conference.
Everybody's in love. You're here all the time, so.
And you're hers on. Yeah.
It's all up on planning.
Well, you may have already.
I just started last Monday. Just doesn't say. Yeah, I can't remember.
That's okay.
Yes, but I think we gotta keep going with our meeting.
That's okay.
It's on the website, but just go to the planning and so on. Shit. Right. You wanna talk out in the lobby? That would be helpful. Thank you.
So, we're getting to the board first.
Yeah.
Did you want to, it says meet you.
Oh, yes, I put the information in your packets, just for those who don't know me. I have been doing this since I graduated college in 1997. I went out to Colorado when I graduated in the Denver area, and I was an appraiser for the assessors department for 2 years. And then I became a urban planner there, for the, Arapa, or actually Douglas County, and then the city of Lakewood. And then from there, I moved to California, where I was a, planner for the city of Orinda. And then in 2013, I moved back to Michigan. And I did a short stint here for you guys, between 2013 and 2014. And after that, I was the planning and zoning director for Hamburg Township. And then I never wanted to be full-time when I moved back to Michigan. That was one of the reasons I moved back, was to have a more relaxed lifestyle. It's very go out in California, where you're working paycheck to paycheck everywhere, because the housing costs are so expensive and everything. So when I didn't really want to work full-time, but I needed to purchase a house with a small mortgage. So I got a job at Hamburg as their planning and zoning director. And I did that full-time, I think, for 3 years, and then I went part-time with them as their planning and zoning director for 2 years. And then the last 4 years, I've been their township planner there. And then I also worked for Linden Township as their zoning administrator there. That's where I grew up. I grew up on Farnsworth Road and went to Chelsea schools. And I'm their zoning administrator there. I work 6 hours a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to noon. If you ever need me, I'm over there. And I do their planning for them over there too, under my sole proprietorship, which is SP Urban Planning Services. I also work for Norville Township as their planner under the sole proprietorship, and then I have a few developers that I am working for currently. After Carol left this position, they called me, and I will do the zoning and the planning for this office. I'm hoping to get the processes more streamlined. I've been working with Brad on the website, and I think it will be a lot cleaner. I've been working with Chelsea Area Construction Agency, so all of the zoning permit processes are electronic. Which I already had worked with them in Linden Township during COVID to get everything so that an applicant can submit something via email, and I will stamp it off and send it directly to Devin over at Chelsea Area Construction Agency, and the applicant goes directly to them to pull their building permit. So the applicant doesn't have to do that dance when they bring something to us. They drop it off, they have to come back 2 days later, pick it up, drive it over for them. It's a lot easier here because we're the location of the highway and their location of the highway. But over in Linden, you're driving a long way to get between those two places. So, that will be a quick thing. I'm hoping my office hours here are gonna be Monday and Wednesday, from 9 to noon, but I'm also as if there's any of you have seen I'm available a lot of the time on emails because I'm usually at a desk somewhere. Doing something or planning.
I thought you mentioned though that you were doing this to not work as much, but it sounds like you're working a ton.
Well, right now I'm working more, but when I get everything cleaned up, I imagine this township's zoning will be about 10 hours a week. And then the planning will be whatever we have the projects that are going through or any zoning text amendments that need to be written or anything like that. You already have Beckett Rader doing your master plan, so there shouldn't be that much that I have to do there. I'm sure you're paying enough to do that. So I'm gonna try to stay out of it as much as possible. So
Are you staff to the town?
I am staff for this township. So they did not want to hire me as under my sole proprietorship. I do give them a discounted rate because of that, because I don't have to deal with the insurance and paying the social security side of my social self-employment social security. So there is a $10 an hour rate drop for both my zoning services and my planning services. So I love the Chelsea area, and I think it's great that these townships can get professional planning and zoning people to work for them. It's very hard if they don't have it, and I've seen it in a lot of places that they're like going into Northville Township, they were writing their zoning text amendments by themselves. The planning commission was trying to write a solar ordinance, and it was just didn't work. So, there is a benefit. I like to inform and educate on what the benefit of having a professional planner and zoning person.
Your experience and knowledge comes through.
So, yeah, hopefully it will make everything a lot quicker, cleaner, especially with the staff reports, and then the presenting of the staff report usually will direct comments from the public and make it so that they can be more informed. And then also, as you've probably noticed, a lot of ZBA property owners don't really present their projects very well because they're not sure what to do. So it just makes it easier for them to follow that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Well, we'll probably find if we have flexible applicants, it's a pretty easy process on the ZBA. Good luck on that planning commission.
Yeah, I've heard.
There's just a little more emotion around planning commission decisions in this township than we have at ZBA. As Tom knows, I'm being a member there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of emotion on planning commission meetings.
Yeah, on the planning commission meetings, I think the big, because I have watched the last few, and I think the big thing that I would like to work on is just to make sure you're commenting on the standards, just like here. Follow the standards, don't get off track with the motion.
I appreciate you making that
yeah.
comment earlier, right? I even acknowledged that to Andrea. I said that, I like that perspective. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it just creates a more professional setting. Because you are making your findings based on the standards, not based on personal preference or anything like that. And you don't want to give them that perception either in a public hearing, especially now that we have video of it, because that is all admissible in the court of law. So if you do, which in the past, it seems the township was sued a lot on a lot of the consent judgments that are out there, and they didn't win very many of them. So we want to make sure that if we do approve or deny anything at either the ZBA or the planning commission, that it's legally defensible, the decision that was made. So. But that is it for me, unless you have questions about anything. I do live in Chelsea now, so downtown area.
I just look forward to working with you. It's nice to have fresh eyes look at it. I've been involved for about 4 years, since 2018, so I'm always looking to learn the process.
Excellent. I will probably be sending you all like links to trainings. I do actually have some printouts that I have saved to give to you guys, but I forgot to print them out for this meeting, so you'll get them next meeting. Great reading for bedtime, you know. Talking about variances and what we have. So, but also I will be sending you, you know, trainings that are offered by MTA, MML, and MAP. And if you guys want to go to them, you would just let me know, and I would look for the funds to send you to them. So the more training our boards and commissions have, the more legally defensible their decisions are going to be. So there are a lot of grants out there from, I know MTA has grants under the power plan. Our insurance companies all have grants that you can get for educational purposes, and it just because everything is cheaper. Because if you do get sued, it goes to your insurance, and then the insurance has to fight that pay for that lawsuit. So those trainings are beneficial. Over in Linden right now, there is a citizen planner training that is going on in Jackson, and one of the planning chair over there is going to it. So that's a pretty intense one, because it's I think 6 Thursdays, so 6 Thursdays and 3 hours every Thursday. So it's pretty long training. I have taken it it's put on by Michigan State University. And a lot of times the counties will do it. It's Jackson County that's putting it on over there, and it's only $250 for the entire training. So they've got a grant, obviously, to pay for it, because it's usually, I think, $1,200 to go to that. So we don't have a county planning here in Washington County, so it will never happen out of Washington County. But I know when I took it, it was Livingston County Planning Commission that organized the Michigan State to come out and present that. So I took it just to see what they were presenting, because I didn't want to send it. I don't usually want to send any of my ZBA members or planning commissioners to any trainings that I haven't been to, because I want to make sure that they're worthwhile. So,
You had mentioned earlier about us making a request to the planning commission on status of.
yeah. So I can talk about that a little bit now, and then we could talk about, I think the next agenda item that I put on there is about the ZBA meeting dates. So let's talk about, the first thing is like the issue that we had tonight about generators. Yeah, technically, under the definition of a structure, these things they can't be moved. You know, we can't move a generator. It's permanently in that location. As you do see, I did look at 4 of your surrounding municipalities and how they deal with it. The only one that doesn't have regulation, I believe, where Lima Township doesn't say anything in their code. They just don't allow them in the required setbacks. Grass Lake Township allows generators in within the setbacks, but it doesn't actually address it anywhere in the code. Linden Township has a section of the code specifically for generators that allows them to encroach 4 feet into a required setback. And then now I might be getting it mistaken. I think the mechanical equipment in Hamburg Township is 4 feet into the required setback. The Linden Township code actually allows you to encroach into your rear or side yard setback as long as you're at least 10 feet from the property line. And then if you are in the required setback, there's a vegetation or screening requirement that you put around your generators. So just to screen them from view. So on a generator alone item, I would suggest that if we're concerned with them, either, you know, you could make them not be a structure. And just allow them, but I hear there could be concerns. And I would be concerned with that mostly on safety issues. The reason you want the generators on these lake properties where they get really close together is you want to be able to make sure the fire department can still get down to the lake side of the property. So you need some sort of regulation there that doesn't allow house A and house B that are only 10 feet apart, 5 feet from their property line to put their generators at the exact same location, because then nobody can get down to the lake on that side of their house. So you need some sort of regulation. So you could allow a generator to encroach into a required setback, but be no closer than a certain number from the property line. And then have some sort of criteria.
Are you looking for a specific recommendation from us?
No, I
Or
would just,
general.
I would just do a general recommendation that the planning commission consider revising the ordinance to address generators. And then the planning commission would do the research on what would be the appropriate thing for that. The other problem that I see with your code is you're requiring these 20-foot side yard setbacks on these properties. Just from a cursory review of your LR district, 90 to 98% of the lots are not going to be able to handle those setbacks. Because actually, if you look at the zoning map, which you don't actually really have one, I have a hand-drawn one in my office, but we are preparing one with county, and that will be out soon, and then on your website. All of the lots in the LR district are either lakefront properties. And there's one subdivision right here off of Old US 12, a new sub. It's a seat by the water tower there. I don't know what that sub is called. That's the only other lots. There's like 12 lots in there that are zoned LR. So every other lot is on the lake as a lake property, lakefront property. So my suggestion would be to revise your setback requirements for lake properties. I wouldn't suggest that you revise the minimum lot size or the minimum lot width. Those items are the things that stop people from subdividing and creating more lake properties. The setbacks are just setbacks that are allowing you to build on the property, and many places have a I think I wrote it in here, but I can't remember where, a setback that will change based on the size of the lot.
So it's proportional.
Yeah, it's a proportional setback. So if you had a 40-foot wide lot, right now you have 40-foot wide lots and you have this 20-foot setback, there is zero place that they could actually build without asking for a variance. If you had a 40-foot wide lot, you would reduce those setbacks to, let me find where I wrote that into my staff report. Oh, it's on page 3 of your Kavanaugh Lake staff report. So you can sort of see the example of the reduced setbacks. So if you have a lot that is less than 45 feet wide, the setback could be a 5-foot side yard setback. And that would allow a 30-foot wide house. So, and then between 40 feet and 60 feet, you would have a 5-foot minimum setback with a 15-foot aggregate. That means if one side is 5, the other side would need to be 10. If one side is 7, the other side could be 8. And that again would allow a 25 to 35 foot wide house on the lot. And then between 60 and 80, you could increase that setback to a 10-foot setback. And that would allow between a 30 and 40-foot setback. And then once you get a lot over 80 feet, then you could have the 20-foot wide required setback, and that would allow a 40-foot wide house. So you're still controlling the house size. But you're creating a setback where you would have a normal house be built. So you're gonna see a house, a minimum house width. You might see a 20-foot wide house, but you would think it was a mobile home turned sideways. A lot of codes don't even allow you to put up 20-foot wide structures. They make you have larger structures because they were created in the 90s when mobile homes were first built. I don't suggest having any of those codes because that whole size of house thing has changed a little bit now. People like smaller houses with a lot more amenities in them. So, to allow a appropriate sized house and a setback such as I had stated would allow a 30-foot wide house on any of those size lots. So nothing larger, you know, until you get to the largest structure, which would be over the 80-foot. So you would have an appropriate sized house and it wouldn't have to come to get a variance every time. Because you are approving these variances based on, yeah, we're not gonna like it on the lot that we saw tonight at 120 Kavanaugh Lake. If they came in today and they were like, well, we could put up a 9-foot by or 9.5-foot house. That is 30 feet long, or we can do what we built, you approved their variance. So it's just a way to create a code that still restricts the size of the structure on the property, but they don't have to come in and ask for a variance every time. And by doing that and not changing the minimum lot size and the minimum lot width in the area, you're not allowing any of those lots to be further subdivided. So you currently have a minimum lot width of 1 acre, and there's probably 4 houses or 4 lots in the LR district that are 1 acre or more, and you would need 2 acres to subdivide them. So nobody's going to be subdividing in your LR district. You also require 150-foot wide lot width. Very hard to find a property that has that width. And again, with 150-foot wide lot width, yeah, 20 feet is totally appropriate for a side yard setback. So, yeah, I think you have the problem with generators, but you also have the problem with your side yard setbacks on these lots is unreasonable. And I just think it's a very easy fix. You don't have to change your zoning districts. You just have to change the wording under the setbacks that says 20 to have it say, if you're 40 feet or under, you can do 5. If you're 40 to 60, you can do 5 and 10. If you're 60 to 80, you're 10, and if you're over 80, you're 20. The simple changes like that make, you know, your jobs as the ZBA
what we're in control of.
easier. Because right now you're making findings based on what you've always done in the past. And you really need to be making findings based on the variance standards due to undue shape, size, or location. So anytime there's an existing house, you know, you can, I watched this one because I was issuing a permit for a guy at 260 Shoreview. And the architect was arguing with you about the garage setback. He had an existing garage up or shed up by the street that was only 5 feet, and he wanted to put his house 30 feet from the street. And he's arguing that he's making, and you guys are arguing with them. In reality, he needs to meet the required setback for the road, which is 35 feet. It doesn't matter if he had an existing structure there or anything. He needs, why are we arguing about this? And it's because he was told, we will let you do anything that's not encroaching further than the existing structure.
Right.
And that's not right. That's not, you've created an ordinance. That's not an ordinance. So we want to get rid of that. Right. And we want to, anything that you think you've done always in the past, let's write it into our code. So that we're not dealing with that in the future. So I mean, my suggestion would be to direct staff or recommend the PC to look at the generator setback and look at reducing the required 20-foot setback.
Another
of
look
the
at the
LRs.
generator one first. We better look at them both at the same time.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking 5 foot, they're gonna say, okay, fine, we're gonna go 5 foot out. We'll come back and deal with the generator later.
No, right.
They won't do them both at the same time.
No, would you?
Yeah, I would, because
If
on a
it's-
5-foot setback, I wouldn't allow a generator to be on the side property line, because you're going to have 30 feet on those lots where they can put that generator on the rear and the front. So when you create your generator setback, you're gonna say you can encroach into a required setback as long as it's 10 feet from the property line. So on those little lots, they won't be able to put their generators or their air conditioners in that side yard setback. And the reason you want to have that is again, for the life safety aspect. You don't want them clogging up those little side setbacks with their mechanical equipment, because then you can't get down to the lake if you need to. This is, again, I say lake because it's really only going to happen on these lake properties.
Exactly.
You call it low density residential, I look at it as LR, whenever people say LR, I'm like, oh, lake residential property. So, and I think they can get their head around both of these. In reality, with the generator. With the generator, it's only going to impact a lot that is larger than a certain size, because you're not gonna allow a generator to encroach further. into this.
I'm just surprised the guy got a permit to do this. I'm just sort of. baffled by-
Originally,
Well, right now,
oh,
his generator took a dump. He wouldn't have the darn thing installed and we can't get started back up. I'm trying to figure out why. What's the holdup? Because most of the time you don't.
oh, yeah,
You don't, there's people out
yeah,
there. that
wouldn't pull a
install-
permit, right,
Exactly.
right.
There's people out there that will put generators in every day and don't do this.
Yeah, and I don't know how this one got caught, because yes, I mean, he had, like I could have mentioned, he had 2 air conditioners on the other side of this property that encroached.
I
into
think
the
one
required setback.
reason it might be coming to fruition is simply because of prevalence of generators being installed now compared to what it was 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
they're not nearly, I mean, when I don't have a whole home generator, because when I put the big transfer switch in and bought a portable generator, basically they really weren't available.
Right.
Now they are, but as well, I start thinking, well, people are putting a lot of generators in now. And I think, not to take up too much time here, but I think in some ways, it might almost be like kind of, people were really upset about cell phone towers right now, and how many towers and, they keep popping up everywhere. But we just saw that Starlink now has received permission to start being used as a cell phone towers. So you're getting it from the cells. So what I was leading to with the generators is with electricity and battery storage now, those generators in 10 years.
Won't be necessary.
Exactly. That, each home might have enough battery capacity in it that,
I'll stick with my generator.
I'm just saying, but it's a matter of when, it's
There's
not if.
multiple, again, like Tom, there's multiple solutions. Some people will have full house
Right.
batteries, but some people will have generators.
That's
And
the
we
expensive part.
We can plan for the occasional generator.
But I don't know that right now we're going through a big growth. With in-home generators right now, so there's a need, and I think that's where. That brought this forward now, is people are pulling for.
I have a lot of them,
Because they are becoming a lot more prominent, but
I issued
in
3
the
this week.
future, that prominence might change. And
Well, it was the heavy storms that we had that increased it, and I think the building department has started enforcing them coming to the zoning first to get their permits. So I think that's where, like this one, they wouldn't let them turn on the electricity because the building department wouldn't let them up into the electrical panel.
Yeah.
So, because it's hooked right onto the side of their house with the 50 amp box there. So they had to put that all in, and And more of these companies that they have actually have to hire licensed contractors. So when you have a license, you wanna do it the right way, although these guys put it on the ground before they got it hooked up. So, I don't know, but I know that a lot of times when you build a new home. The building department will say, oh, you put an air conditioner on the side, you can't do that.
Right.
So that's how they get in when the homes are under construction, such as this one. I'm sure they put in the generator and the air conditioners before they got their C of O. But the building department doesn't care about that. They're like, generators or air conditioners, they're on the side of everybody's house.
Exactly.
So I know my air conditioners have been my setbacks. But my house is at a 0-foot setback on one side, so I had to put it over there. It's not on the neighbor's property, it's on the backyard of my house, but I didn't want it all the way in the middle of the back of my house.
A lot of it to do with economics too.
Yeah, it's about where the stuff that they're hooking up is.
And that was certainly the case with these guys.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like they did their due diligence to, when they talked about even relocating it over towards where the garage was, I was like, wow.
Although it was weird, because they have their air conditioners on the other side, so there's electrical running into that house on that side too. So their house was built in 2004, so they must have been thinking about all this stuff. I know I couldn't had to run that 240 volt all the way from the other side of the house. Because they have it on both sides of their house, and then they were going to put it down by their garage because they want to run their garage with the generator too, and I was like, geez. I mean, that's economics. Out at these lake properties, people have some money to do some things.
What about the meeting dates?
Yeah, meeting dates, let's talk about that. So I did talk to,
Do we need to make a formal recommendation regarding these?
yeah,
changes?
I would make if you want to make a formal recommendation, you could just direct staff to make your recommendation to.
Could we do that verbally with you, or does it need to be written and submitted that way?
You can do it verbally in your minutes, so if you just want to state it, make a recommendation to look at. Generator setbacks and reducing the setbacks to a more appropriate number in the
Yeah.
low density residential.
LR.
Can you put that in the minutes for us, Ed?
Are people amenable to, instead of just generator,
That's what I'm comfortable with making, if you guys are.
can we generalize to just stationary mechanical equipment? As opposed to just.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Recommend that, and we all vote on it.
Okay.
I'll report it in the minutes.
So the recommendation would be toward the planning commission or to staff?
Planning commission, just
Okay.
to request that planning commission.
Okay. I move to recommend, the ZBA recommend to the planning commission, to evaluate an ordinance for stationary. mechanical equipment.
Let's repeat it again. Recommend the planning commission to evaluate an ordinance,
An ordinance for stationary mechanical equipment,
stationary mechanical equipment.
just so it's.
Also.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Then the second motion would be the ZBA recommends the planning commission change the, is it LR?
Evaluate.
Evaluate, is it LR ordinance?
Yeah,
LR
a low
district?
density residential setback.
So LD.
It's LR is what it is. But it's low density residential, that's what it stands for.
Change the evaluate, the LR district. Side yard setbacks. Two more appropriate. Two appropriate distances.
The word to be more appropriate.
Yeah, or more appropriate distances.
Or more appropriate distance.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, sorry, paging the day.
Yes. So I do obviously have a lot of municipalities, so what the date that you currently are using is the third Wednesday of the month. I have a planning commission meeting in Norvell Township on those nights. So
So we're talking about all new dates?
yeah,
Okay.
a new set date. So I was thinking, I had presented to Steve. When he called me, Steve Kiss, the fourth Wednesday of the month or the third Thursday of the month, so that it was similar to your existing date. But he doesn't want to do Thursdays at all. Yeah, he was available the fourth Wednesday. But if any other date that you guys can think of that might work.
I'd be more inclined to go with the Wednesday as well.
Yeah, fourth Wednesday, fifth, and Thursdays are bad.
Yeah, right,
It's also.
more of a social thing with Thursday.
Yeah, that's what he said too, social. I was like, yeah, you guys.
Thursday, I mean.
I just stay in the house all the time. I'm like, I don't go out, I don't do anything. Like,
These meetings all the time.
you guys are like social. I'm like, man, I feel bad just sitting in my house all the time. Tom, how does the fourth Wednesday work for you?
It'd be just lovely. I would have two meetings that. Thursday, it's the fourth Thursday, planning meets.
Oh, you mean 2 days.
Oh, yeah, but we're gonna change that also. That is in conflict with the Linden Township Planning Commission.
So that was.
Sounds like a whole new schedule.
So the fourth Wednesday, that's fine with me. So if you guys want to make a motion, I have written down the days and there are 2 fourth Wednesdays that you probably will want to change. November 27th is the day before next Thanksgiving, and no, December 25th is Christmas Day.
Yeah, let's move both of those.
We might not have anything anyways.
Yeah, we
Well,
could
still,
just, if you want to leave them in now, we can change them when we get closer to the meetings. So that if we know what days work best for you guys. As of this year, you guys would seem to have moved both of those anyway. You moved one to December 6th and one to November 8th. So, when we get closer to those meetings, we can find a date that works and make that change.
Okay.
So,
I'll make a motion to move the ZBA meetings to the fourth Wednesday of the month.
Second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So would that start with the calendar year 2024 then, Scott?
yeah. But I believe you canceled the December meeting, right? The 20th.
I don't think there was anything on the agenda that.
Yeah, there's nothing there, but
But, you know,
I was imagining this one was moved from that one to this one, but I don't know why. I guess I just imagined that.
Well, so when- so-
That was a request.
so who?
Yeah, for that generator, they wanted to move this up, I thought.
That's why,
Oh,
so this was replacing.
Ah,
That's what-
got it, that's right. So actually, the people on Crooked Lake then, we're not talking till the fourth Wednesday.
It doesn't matter. I mean, they're not gonna start construction out there until spring.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
like to consider-
nobody's doing construction in January
Here.
in Michigan.
I can tell you, they'd be real happy if they moved the whole darn house back 20 feet. Got some.
Well, like you said, they.
That's why I threw it out there. They have a better.
I did see the well there when I was walking.
Yeah, I
there,
saw it there too.
And,
But if you're going to that kind of remodel job, why don't you just put new footings? I just can't imagine why those old footings.
That's a junker house. I wouldn't.
I was just.
That's why I brought it up to them, because I was like, and I brought it to Steve, because in your code, there's no real triggers, but there is mention of a 50%. Most places have a 50% rule that says if you improve the property more than 50% of the replacement cost of the structure, then it's considered removed. And that's because with non-conforming structures, your code is supposed to be set up to correct for those non-conformities. So whenever somebody is doing that much work on a property, they're supposed to then correct for the non-conformity. In your code, it does allude to the 50%, but it doesn't state it exactly the right way. So I would just go with whatever you have been doing, which it sounds like as long as they leave a rock out there, it's considered there.
I spend that much money with old footings.
No, and,
Just ludicrous.
So in this case, that when it comes back, I will notice it for a variance to the east side and a variance to the west side setback. It won't say the exact dimensions. So when you make the findings, you know, and when we present the project, you can say the existing house encroaches into these required setbacks so that it encompasses both of them regardless of if they tear it down or don't tear it down. Because I like Tom, I agree with you. I don't think they're going to have anything left when they're done.
Well, by the time you said you might have to do something on Lakeside, replace that one, well, all we're doing is just. Cobbling this up.
That right there is why people have a set number in their code. I don't like the 50% of the value of replacement cost of the structure because it makes it very hard for us to determine what that is. And people want to battle over that. It's easier if you say 50% of the perimeter walls need to remain. So that's very easy to measure a perimeter wall. If that perimeter wall comes down, then you have to get a variance. The problem that does arise, like every code has a problem, no matter what it is, it's always going to have a problem. Problem that arises is the architect goes, yeah, 50% of the walls are remaining. The contractor doesn't know what the architect was saying, and he's like, this wall's crap, knocks it down. And then you have a project stopped halfway in the middle of a project when they had their guys and they have to come in and get a variance.
That's what they're gonna find out.
That's what
Yeah,
happens.
it's
Yeah,
right.
exactly what happened.
But we're going to notice this as if the house is coming down anyway. So because I'm not noticing a specific side setback, and I am going to write it, it is written in the staff report that the existing house encroaches into those setbacks. So even if they do remove all 50%, all 100% of their foundations, I'm not making them come back and get a variance. So.
Great, sure. You did start how that made a motion, January.
You did?
I moved to
Statement
adjourn.
regarding adjournment.
Second for
Did you have to pay more for the concrete? For that?
During local restrictions.
No, because